Our next section is a testimonial section with a slider. Now, I personally really don't like sliders. I feel that if people have to click to see extra information, they're not really likely to click. So I never use it. I feel like if it's important information, just show it. But again, regardless, this is just my rant against sliders. But still, they're pretty popular in web design. So let me show you how to implement. Webflow has a native slider component right here under the advanced. You can see we have a slider here. We also have tabs here. So let's see how we can create that. So we'll start off by duplicating another section. Let's copy the about section and paste it. And let's go ahead and clean it. We don't need this about grid. We do need this H2, although in here, the title recommendation looks like a label, but this is actually an H2. Remember, this is what this section is about. So it should be an H2, even if it doesn't look like this. And this, while this looks like H2, the quote itself, this is actually just the content itself. So we'll style everything later. For now, I just want to start out by adding a slider and showing you how that works. So let's add a slider. And we've got this slider settings. I'm going to close this for now just because we can always see it right here from the settings panel. But I do want to show you how the slider is built. It's got a mask that basically holds all of the slides that we have, but they're hidden, right? So that's why we have a mask. And then we've got this navigation arrow left and right, and we've got this slider nav here at the bottom. So just so that we can understand how this works, let's go ahead and add some text, just like a text block. And right here, this is slide 1. And you can see that now slide 1 has this content inside of it. Let's copy this and paste it actually in slide 2 as well. And you can see now we're in slide 2 and we can change the text to this is slide 2. Now from the slider settings, I can move around between these slides. And now you can see that the content basically slides, right? This is a mask, what we have here in the middle, so that we're only seeing a single slide, but I can play around and slide between them. I can choose whether I want to slide or maybe crossfade between. Right now it's very subtle, but I can crossfade. I can choose from different effects here, and I can choose the animation duration. I can also make this auto-playing, automatically animating. So I've got a bunch of properties here. I can also add slides, right? If I need to have extra slide, I can hit this. Now I've got 3 slides here. So let's start out by styling this, okay? We need to basically, first of all, make this ugly gray background disappear, but then we want to change these icons. We want to hide this navigation because we don't have them, and we need to style the content that we have inside. So I'm going to start out by copying this text, and let's go back to slide 1. And you know what? It's actually going to be easier for me if I want to copy all of the content from slide to slide to have some kind of a wrapper here. Right, so in slide 1, let's actually wrap this in a div block, and let's call this testimonial slide content, and we can of course paste our text here. And this slide 1, let me see if the background, the ugly background, is coming from here. No, the background probably comes from the mask. If we choose the mask or we choose the slider itself, yeah, here's the gray background. So let's give this a class testimonial slider, just so that we have access to remove this background. I'm just going to pull in the alpha so that we don't have any background. Now for the testimonial slide content, I do want this to be centered, and a great easy way to do that is turn this testimonial slide content into Flexbox and just click in the center. Now it's all centered. This text block, we needed to make it look like H2. Now we don't have an H2 class yet because previously we've actually styled the H2 HTML element. So let's just create a class that's called H2 that looks like an H2. What does an H2 looks like? 60 pixels on 130%. So let's go here in the H2, change that to a heading, 60 pixels, 130. That doesn't look like 130. Sometimes there's a weird gap. You saw I moved it to 131 and 130, and now it looks great. This content is way too wide. I do need to create like padding inside of our, let's do it inside our testimonial slide content. Let's create some padding from the left and right. And we can also, of course, apply text center here. Text center. Okay. So now this looks pretty good. We are lacking this element with a profile of whose testimonial is this. You can see they are grouped. This is a great hint that we'll probably need a div to hold them together. So let's add this div here. Div. And we can call this testimonial persona, I guess. We can call this wrapper. Now, currently, we've got this flexbox that aligning the elements horizontally, but I don't need this testimonial persona next to it. So let's turn this into direction vertically, and that is pretty good. Let's also add some gap between them. Now I can already see I have a problem with the height of the slider. For some reason, I guess either this mask or this slider is decided this slider needs to be very, very thin. So let's go ahead and give this testimonial slider a manual height. Let's try 650 pixels. Yeah, now we've got, well, this is actually too big. 450. Yeah, this looks better. Okay, so now we've got this wrapper. Inside we need an image and this information. So let me actually copy this information. Let's bring inside an image. We've already uploaded it, but we do need to style it. We need to make it much smaller. I'm going to select HDPI for the image, so it's smaller. And then let's give this a class testimonial image. And what do we need to do? First of all, it looks pretty big. So this is 57 pixels width and height. So let's go ahead and force that in the size of this image, 57 and then 57. So that looks good. Let's go down. To make it round, we're going to ramp up the radius corner on the borders to 999, and that's going to turn that into perfect round corners. And lastly, I see that there's an outline here. Now, we didn't touch borders yet, but just underneath the corner radius, we do have borders. And so I'm going to add a solid border on all sides, because I can also add a border just to one side of the box. And maybe 2 pixels. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Okay, so we've got the image, which is looking good. Let's also add the information. So text block. And I'm going to paste the information here. Sophia Lane. I can actually just manually block this into 2-line and select this and make this bold even without styling. So this is pretty good. But I do want them one next to each other. So how are we going to arrange this? Turn the wrapper into a flex. Make sure that the direction is left and right. Get some space between them. And also want to make sure that they are centered. Not centered like this, but centered like this. Because it was top aligned and this is centered aligned. Okay. This looks pretty great. I feel like we can copy this and put it on slide number 2 and maybe slide number 3. Of course, later on, we can go ahead and change. Let's go ahead and slide to our next slide. Just to change some text just so that we can see that, you know, we are in a different slide. Let's just do, hey, this is a different slide, just so that we can see that we are sliding between different ones, and that's great. Okay, next we are almost done. We've got these arrows. So we've got custom arrows. We've even uploaded an image of them, which is right here in the arrow. So let's go here. Now it's difficult to see because the icon here is actually white. Now for this icon, I can't actually change the icon itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete this. And for the icon right, I'm just going to add my own image. So Command D image, and I'm just going to select my own arrow. And let's see if we see it. Oh, it's right here. What is it doing down there? Should be inside right arrow. Okay, there we go. But it's right here at the top. We do want it to be centered. So for it to be centered, let's give a class to this right arrow so we can turn it into a flex and then vertically align it. So let's call this testimonial arrow. And let's go ahead and turn this into a flex and center it. Okay, this looks great. I'm going to copy the image and paste it inside this arrow instead of this icon. It's difficult to see here. We're going to reapply the class here. Arrow, testimonial arrow. There we go. But we do need to flip this arrow to the other side. So let's give this a class. Let's call this testimonial arrow flip. The only thing we're going to do to flip it is we're going to go down here all the way to the bottom to effects, and we've got transforms. And let's go ahead and pick rotation. Now we can rotate it. I don't even know which axis we need to rotate, not this one. Here we go, this one. So let's rotate it 180 degrees, and now it's completely flipped. Okay, so we've customized the arrows. The last thing is we want to get rid of this slider navigation. Maybe you like it. I don't really like it. So I'm just going to hide it. Now we didn't see yet how to hide elements. Basically, sometimes you say, if I don't need this, why can I just delete it? But sometimes you want to hide elements. Maybe you want to show them based on an interaction. And in this specific case, because this is a Webflow component, Webflow actually won't let me literally just delete this slider navigation. So what I do need to do is give this a class, call this slider or testimonial slider nav. And from the layout, I'm going to choose display none. Now we haven't touched display none yet, but it's very, very powerful because it not only hides it, we did see how we can change the opacity, but this completely removes it from the rendering. So while it still exists here and I can see it, it's got this icon of invisible, and the browser doesn't actually render it. It doesn't take up space on the screen. So this is really, really great. I would say that the testimonial is done. We only have to give this section a background, which we'll do in the next video. Last thing I want to do is to style this as a text label. Let's remove this text center and let's see if we can give this text label. Text label. Yes, but Aha, this text label just makes it small. It doesn't change the font back into the body font. So let's add this here to the body. Okay, we're going to add this class to text label because all of our text labels, we want to make sure that they are with the body text. Now we can reapply text center. And exactly. And this was called recommendations. Probably misspelled this. I should always copy and paste things. All right, this is done. Let's do the background in the next video.